All of us could listen to all of you for hours and hours and hours, and we're just so grateful to be able to just get a snippet of your lives and the grace with which you share them with us. So finally, would we like to ask the same question to you? If there's one memory that really sticks with you that you'd like to share with us this evening.
Well, for me it's kind of easy. The one memory that I have is the day when my mother told me, we live in Belgium, and this was late 1942. And at that point already, my grandparents, my mother's parents, my father's brothers, and his children, we had $2, 160, 140, and they had all been arrested at that point and deported. I mean, people really didn't know exactly where people were being deported, but people knew that it wasn't good. And my mother told me this one day. I was 6 and a half. It was, I think, late in 1942, and she said, "You're going to go away with this woman." It was a friend of ours, a Gentile, and she's going to take you to live with some nice people away. And she said, I asked, "Well, are you going to come with me?" She said, "No, I'm going to come later, but now you have to go with this person." And at that point, I guess they decided that the only way, because it was clear to everybody, I'm descendant to my mother's younger sister, and she's 93 years old now, and she lives in Brussels still. And she said, at that point, we all knew that we all are going to be deported, all are going to be taken away, and the only way we can survive, if we can survive, is by hiding. And so my parents decided that the only way they could perhaps have me stay alive was just to give me away, basically. And this woman, this friend, this Gentile, this friend, well, I told her that she knew about a couple who lived out in the country, in a small village, and that they had told her that they would be willing to take me if she was going to bring me there. And so I already know, you have these flashes, you think you remember, you know what happened, like 6 and a half or so, and, things come in the flash, you don't remember every detail. But we went, and so we had to go down from Brussels, we had to go down to a small village in the south of Belgium, close to the French border. And so she took me by the hand, we went down, my mother gave me, put a few things in a bag. So the school bag, my father worked he had a business, a leather business. And she took a few clothes, put it in the bag, and gave me 2 pictures. A picture of her and me, of a year or so earlier, and a picture of my father. And in the back of the picture showed a few words in French. To my little Arnold, I love Mama. And somehow I went. I couldn't understand, why did I have to go by myself? Why didn't they come with me? I had never gone anywhere without my parents. And so, but we went, and we took the train, and this woman held tight, and she said, "Don't cry, you can't cry." And there were Germans everywhere, the train station. So we went down to Charleroi, which is a city, South Belgium. Then we had to take a tram, and took the tram, walked from the end of the tramway to the village. 25 years later, when I went back to Belgium as an adult, I decided to retrace those steps that I took. I just wanted to really get a sense of how far was it. So I sort of had some sense of, it took me about 2.5 hours to go from Brussels to this place in the village of Jumet. It was a village of coal miners, and so the woman took me there and introduced me to these two people, and I stood there and I was totally paralyzed. I felt totally abandoned. I knew that my grandparents had taken away some bad shoulders, but why did I have to be there by myself? So that's, I guess, the most traumatic experience that I have in the world.
Thank you each. As Rabbi Mark said, if we had another day, another week, another month, another lifetime, there are memories that we know that you could share, or feelings that you could share. So a night is inadequate, but I genuinely believe that they are holy things that you're sharing with people in this room, so thank you. We were, in talking and preparing for this evening, we thought a lot about what we wanted to ask, and if the first question was difficult to sort of boil down what you wanted to say into a single memory, this too may be beyond any simple grasp, but if you could share what it is that you really want to, what one thing you want to convey to everybody in this room, and in particular to the young people in this room. What's the lesson? Or perhaps you'd say there's no simple lesson, but what is it that you feel you must convey? Doris, why don't we start with you again, and let's all just take a couple of minutes so that we all have a chance to respond.
Yes, I would like to leave a message to our children and children's children, our grandchildren, to remember the past, to remember when the world fell into darkness a little more than 70 years ago, when brutality and hatred went out of control, Kristallnacht, gas chambers and concentration camps under Nazi control, bringing death and suffering to many millions of men, women, and children, Jewish and non-Jewish alike. We must thank God that this shall never happen again. And by learning from the past, to remember to the future. It should not happen again. Only when you learn from the past, you can really try to prevent it. And let's hope for a brighter future and peace. That's all I can say. What the children, they should know. Because a lot of people ask me, was it only Jewish? I know it wasn't only Jewish. There were Christians, there were homosexuals, there were gypsies, Jehovah's Witnesses, anybody was invalids, anybody who was not a Nazi and in healthy condition was killed. They were just not normal people.
Thank you, Doris. So, Bill, we'd like to ask you.
Let me start by endorsing everything that Doris has said. I agree with her, but not completely. No, you didn't say anything wrong. It's a question of perspective. All of the things that have happened, and many of us experienced ghettos, slave labor camps, concentration camps, death marches. I've gone through all of those. What does one take from this? Two things, and they are not totally related. One is that these things can happen again. Because since 1945, there have been quite a number of genocides. I can list them for you, but you don't want me to do that. And nobody did anything. Of course, speeches were made, but that's all. And I don't think we should feel too comfortable about the future. The second thing I want to say is that we do have an obligation, not so much to tell all Gentiles, Americans, and so on about what happened, because memory is short. But I do believe in what Emil Fackenheim referred to as the 11th Amendment, or the 11th Commandment. Don't give Hitler a posthumous victory. And to me, that has meant continuation. In other words, we have a responsibility, not so much to tell details about our experiences, but to make sure that our community, our religion, our culture continues either through our children, and in fact both through our children and our pupils and our students. Thank you.
I have to conclude, my friend, what we did really for years. We used to go to the schools and bring the kids together and explain to them what had happened to us. And there was no reason for that to happen. And if you don't want to be friends with somebody, it's okay, you know, just leave that person alone. We explain to our students what their obligation is and how to really remember what we are told them, what happened to us, and we didn't do anything to deserve that. And for them really to see that they handle it better with their friends, not to pick on each other, and to remember what we really told them that happened to us. It shouldn't happen, you know. This way, we did our share, really. For years we did that. We have tapes, and we really, you know, were lucky to have Spielberg Foundation and to record our life stories, and that you can go in certain places, you know, and ask for it, and you can really listen to it. This way, we did, both of us, the job. And we only stopped, really, I stopped only 3 years ago because I got too emotional. And I felt that I have to take a rest and not to really just, you know, let younger people go to the schools, and you can do the same thing to teach our young people what can happen when they go out of control and they don't respect the next person. Is I hope that we are leaving something for you to tell your grandchildren that there's a better way than to kill 8 million Jews. There's a better way to teach in the schools what can happen when it goes out of control. And I thank you for listening, and I hope that you remember to get together and please once a year and to remind everybody what can happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene. What message do you want to give to the young people here and to all of us?
what we went through. It's unbelievable. And as I get older, it's getting harder. You would think it's a lot, time has passed, and things will get easier, but they do not. The pain is unbelievable. I think of many, many different things, of what they did to us, and how they did it to us. It was such perfection. Everything was planned by the greatest minds. Too far, too close. Thank you. Everything, and it's terrible. A nation like Germany, who have produced some of the finest minds in every way, in philosophy, in music. They excel in every field. Chemistry, Lord praise them. They really did. One of the most sophisticated countries in Europe. And if they could provide, if they could create such things as concentration camps and the system of how fast and how many words are not coming into my mind for some reason. How efficient their plan was. And nobody said anything. Nobody did anything. I know the West, I know under President Roosevelt, it was well known that camps did exist and what was going on. And that really hurts, and I'm not going to dwell on that more. So, like Lola said, yes, it could happen again. So please be vigilant, be alert, speak up, and let it not ever, ever happen again. Thank you.
Well, I guess we know all about brutality and concentration camps. But I have to say, in my case, for example, I owe my life to 3 Gentiles, basically. A woman who took me down to these people. I lived for 3 years with them. He was a coal miner. And I mean, they were very poor. The house, there was no hot water in the house. There were no bathrooms in the house. You had to go outside in the garden to go to the bathroom. There was, of course, food was restricted. I didn't exist, so there were no stamps for me. So they had to share whatever they had with the 7-year-old child. And they taught me to write. I didn't go to school till the end of the war, so I was already 10 years old. They taught me to write, they taught me to read. I learned a lot about Jesus. I was a pretty good Christian for quite a while. They took me to temple on Sundays. That's the only way I got out of the house. I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't step out. I had a different name. My name was Arnold van der Wielen. I was supposedly the son of a relative whose mother was ill. But those people would have given their lives for me. In fact, in 2003, they and some others in Belgium who showed that kind of heroism and courage were awarded by Yad Hashem as right to wisdom among the nation, and their names inscribed in Jerusalem. So yes, we know about the brutality, but what we know less about is the heroism, the courage that some of these people showed. In light of all the indifference, and many times a lot worse, a lot of Belgians, and I'm sure it's true in all the European countries, that were occupied, they were more than happy to report on Jews, because then they could sort of dig in and take over whatever was left after when the Jews were deported and taken by the Gestapo. The Belgian military police was more than helpful to work as closely as possible to the Germans. So to be willing to take that kind of chance, because if you were caught hiding, particularly a child, because the most important for the Germans was to kill the children. 1.5 million children were killed as part of that 6 million. So it took some courage to do what these people did. And so this is what I like to recognize, and I would like to say to the young among us that certainly if, God forbid, such an occurrence occurred, that we would have the fortitude to show that kind of heroism for others than just ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you all so much.